2, 3. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being with Check-in with Pierre B, casual discussion with hospitality leaders. And today, I am more than happy to welcome Patrick Nayrolles. I'm not sure how to say it in English, but in French it's Nayrolles. How do we say it in English, Patrick?
Whatever they want.
Whatever you want.
Nayrolles is, as you said, the traditional French way, but I'm used to Nayrolles also because, as we know, French always like to complicate things, and you put an S, why don't you use it? So people that want to use it, just go ahead and use it.
Well, Patrick, thank you for your time. You are the general manager of the beautiful, fantastic Meadowood resort located in Napa Valley, for those who doesn't know, but you want it, but you don't know about it. Or maybe you know, and you know how good it is. Well, Patrick, do you mind if I just introduce you for 2 or 3 minutes? So Patrick, you went to Institut Florimont in Geneva, Switzerland. And then you went to École Hôtelière de Lausanne and you started your career. I believe your family was in the hotel business, but we will come back to this. Then you went through the hospitality world. It brought you worldwide to beautiful cities like Venice. You went to Monaco as a director adjoint at Hotel de Paris in Monaco. If people don't know Hotel de Paris, it's a fantastic hotel in Monaco, if not the nicest one. And then your career brought you to Abu Dhabi, where you were the general director of the Monte Carlo Beach Club, fantastic hotel as well. And then you went back to France to Les Baux de Provence, once again, a fantastic place at the Domaine de Mandeville, for those who haven't been, where you should go. And then right now you are in Meadowood Resort. Patrick, thank you for your time.
As you said, Pierre, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on who's listening. I would add, you started with Venice, but I would add Carcassonne. That was a beautiful medieval city where I kind of started with a group that unfortunately has changed names, that used to be called Orient Express Hotels at the time, with a gentleman, Mr. Sherwood, that had an incredible vision and put the train back on track, and then also bought around the world. He didn't have a sales and marketing plan. It was just his heart and seeing beautiful hotels and just buying them. And then unfortunately they changed their name to Belmont. But so I started with L'Hôtel de la Cité in Carcassonne. That was a beautiful medieval hotel inside of the walls.
So why did you start in hospitality? Can you tell us where the love for hospitality came from? I think I have an idea, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yes and no, but at one time it wasn't a love. So as you mentioned, my father was in the business. We traveled a lot. There's a few other countries and cities, beautiful cities that I can add to that list. And my father, being of a generation of the Second World War, was dreaming of being able to do the Hotel School of Lausanne, but he had to do the Hotel School of Paris during the Second World War. And that being his dream, I remember I was 10 years old, and we were in Morocco at that time, in Mohammedia, and he was managing the Meridian over there that he had opened. And he came to me and he said, listen, I've always wanted to do the Hotel School of Lausanne. I wasn't able to do it. There's 8 to 10 years of waiting list. I put you on the list. So once you have your baccalaureate, if you want to do the school, you can do it. Now, if you don't want to do it, no problem, don't do it. As you mentioned, I was in Florimont, and I had a few friends that were above me that, had their baccalaureate, went into Geneva, I wanted to go into economics and do a university and all this. And then I was hearing my friends that were, they had their studio, they were supposed to go to university and all these things. And they were not really studying. And knowing myself, coming from a boarding school environment, I needed that structure. And the Hotel School of Lausanne gives you that structure. It's really a school where you better go to school, because if you don't, you're listed as not being in. And on top of that, what they do is the first 4 hours of Monday morning and the last hours of Friday afternoon, if you skip those, it's double. It's not if you skip an hour, it's not an hour, it's 2 hours. And you're allowed to only have 10 unjustified hours during your semester. So if you're above that, you're not even accepted to the exams. So you better go to school. So, and then it has its reputation. And the hotel school, after I don't know what the statistics are today, but at the time, after 3 or 4 years, people had left the hotel business and were not in it anymore at the level of 50%. Because it's a very good, I mean, there's, I always forget his name, but the owner of the Racing Club of Rugby of Paris is an alumni of Lausanne. And he has not been in the hotel business. He has had a beautiful career in real estate, commercial real estate and all that. But he talks very well about Hotel School of Lausanne also, because he says, this is how it structured me. This is how it made me who I am. And I agree completely with that. And some people go into finance, some people go into sales and marketing, human resources, but it's a great, on top of that, as I mentioned, I like rugby, and it's, you learn to work together, and there's a bond. And I mean, there's a lot of friends that I have from the time of school. We're still connecting all the time. So, it's a great thing in life. And top of that, it helps you in your work as you continue, because it's connections.
So did you get this love of hospitality from the get-go? Did you know by doing this school that hotels for you was really what did you had a calling for hotels? You had experience from your dad, but did you had at this point that really fulfillment, desire to join hotels? Or where were you after school? Did you ask yourself, I'm going to try for a few years and see if I like it? Or did you go full force? How did it go?
Well, as I said, at one time I wanted to get out of there, and because with my father traveled all over the world, moving around, and you always think that it's greener on the other side of the fence. But I must say that I love traveling, and I just said, okay, let's start in this business. I think I always compare the hotel business. For me, it's like going into religion. You're just eaten up by it. It's something, I think you're born for it or you're not, because it's really, before we got on the call, we were talking about, you like to talk, you like to meet people, you like to, I say sometimes that, if I had a family, I would stay in the hotel 24 hours a day, because you're connecting with people, we're discovering new things. People, it's funny, I heard this also about bartenders. You get conversations with people that you wonder why you're having it. The people feel comfortable with you and share things that they most likely don't even share with their own family. But because there's this connection, and because you're in leisure, you're in a nice hotel, you're enjoying food, wine, cocktails, so people feel comfortable and just talk to you. And in our business, people know even more at the level of the hotels in which I worked. You get the information and it stays with you. It goes nowhere. There's everyone always dreams of a GM writing a book on his experience, because it could be very interesting, but I don't think anyone will ever do it, because it's not in the mind of the business. So as I started, this is what I liked. I felt comfortable about it, and then I just followed on the footsteps of my father. And I can say that I really followed his footsteps. We'll talk about that maybe later.
What are the qualities you think that are required to be in hospitality? If you have to describe someone who wants to join in the hospitality industry, what do you think the 3 qualities that person should have? 2 or 3 qualities.
To like people, to listen, and to like to serve people, in the sense of making people happy. You know, as we know in our country, it's not always looked well to be a waiter because you're serving someone. I don't have a problem serving someone and just seeing him leave the place and having a beautiful smile because it's the best experience he had in his life. And it's nice to have that. I mean, I think we all want to do that and make people happy. So if you want to make people happy, this is the business for you.
Got it. You traveled around the world throughout your childhood. You traveled around the world with your different position. Now you are here in Napa Valley. Can you tell us, could you describe how the US hospitality or the hospitality in California is different from the different, and I mean, you went really in different places. We talked about Italy, we talked about the Emirates Arab Unit, we talked about France, we talked about how do you describe the style of hospitality here in the US versus wherever you went?
Well, as I was mentioning before, I think what's nice in the United States is people are happy to serve. And I mean, one thing that is very easy is that a lot of Americans, at least the ones that have studied and all at one time or another in their careers or lives have served. Being in a restaurant and, you know, just making pocket money because you get the tips and all these things is often a job that is done by students. So once, you know, they got the diploma, they're maybe CEOs or VPs or whatever, and they come into hotels, they know these people and they respect them, and they give back by, you know, giving them money through the tips and all these things. So I think that in the United States, it's people are very open to that and service oriented.
And it's not the case like in France, for instance. Do people start, you know, like I would say, going up the ladder the same way than in the US? Here you can be a waiter and become a GM down the road, right? If you excel and are good at what you do. Is this possible in France to do this, for example? To start as a waiter, not as often, or I don't know.
Yes, in the business itself, yes, all opportunities are, but I think it's a little bit more closed. It's more difficult. It's there's still, I feel, in Europe, the tendency of wanting to know what have you done. You know, the story of the grande école, as we say in France. You know, what was, you know, what did you study? Here in the United States, you're good at your job or you're not. And then from there, you just grow. Of course, having a good experience and having gone in the right places is important. But once you prove that you're good, it's easier to climb. And I think in a quicker manner. In Europe, it's a little slower. It takes more time. But no, of course, you can, you know, there's a lot of stories of you know, I don't know if you remember, but Mr. Forte, Sir Forte, at the time that created the company called Trust House Forte, that doesn't exist as Trust House Forte anymore, but was split in different companies. He was at the old times, in the elevators, you had a gentleman that was hitting the buttons for you to go up and down. That's how he started. And he created an empire that you can compare to a Marriott today. So it does exist. He was Italian, and then he grew like that. And did his fortune in Italy, no, in England, sorry. But that is possible. But I think there's in the United States, they give more chances. And that's not only in our business, it's generally speaking. I think that in France, when someone is good at what he does, it's more difficult, I think, also to get credits from the banks. There's maybe more administrative work, where in the United States, all that is open. I mean, that's a little bit the reason why I'm here, at least for me. It's easier and quicker to get to things.
So you've been at Meadowood for how long? And can you tell us a little bit of history of Meadowood Resort and how I think you have a very special tie to this property, which is rather unusual. And I like to hear that story.
So yes, I've arrived in October of 2016, so 2015. Sorry, so it's 6 years that I've been here, and for now it's the longest I've ever been in one place, job-wise, so I came, as you mentioned, from Les Baux-de-Provence, and the link to the property from my side is that Mr. Harlan, together with two partners at the time, he was starting to look for an area to do he wanted to go into wine business. He was in the real estate business with Pacific Union in San Francisco, and he wanted to move into wine business, and he was looking for a place in the valley to start his winery. And he was brought, he was suggested Meadowood. And with his connections, he knew Robert Mondavi at the time, that told him, don't do a winery there, but it's a beautiful place for the valley. It's, a hub for people to be there for the community, and you should do something about it. And at the time, Meadowood was a club. There was just a golf course, 9-hole golf course, some tennis courts, and a pool. And there was just a total of 7 lodges. I think 5 were for people to stay, and then there was a restaurant lodge and the reception. And so he bought it. They bought it overnight. They loved it, and they created what is Meadowood today, meaning that they created 50 rooms spread through the property. And so that they finished it more or less in '84. They opened it in '84, and unfortunately, what was the building, the grill where the restaurant was, at that time under construction, burned. So they had to rebuild it, and then Mr. Harlan wanted to have a GM that knew the business, and he hired my father in 1986. And my father at that time told him, I'll be here for 2 years because I'm going to retire, go back to Europe. And in fact, he stayed 8 years. And for my father, with Bill Harlan, it was his best experience, and they always stayed in contact. And Bill would always call my father for his birthday. And back in 2014, they had that conversation. And then my father said, and Bill had always wanted me to come and manage Meadowood. I mean, right when my father was leaving, he said, have your son take over. And my father said, no, he just got out of school, let him do his business. And then, one day. And then I wanted to come here also in the United States. And it was difficult with the visas and all that. And so in 2014, they have a conversation, and my father said, you should call him. And at that time, he had just had his GM resign. So he said, are you interested? And let's try the process. So we started the process, and then they wanted to hire me, and then we fortunately got the visa, because that's the big piece. So that's why I started on the 1st of October 2015.
How special is that? Does it make you? I mean, it must be different than the other property you stepped in. I mean, you have some past history, some past relationships that were built in that property. How special is that, or how different is it? Different to come back to somewhere where someone from your family worked at and managed, or not?
In a way, yes, because of course people talk about it, and I mean, I think that all the GMs before me heard Bill saying that the only GM that was good was my father. So that puts a lot of pressure on them. No one has lasted as long as my father up to now. So that's kind of the challenge. I don't know if I'll get there. That's another thing. But the funny story, if you want, is I'm sitting in the office where my father sat. So it's very connecting, you know, in the heart. It's true that it's a nice story also for people to know. And there are guests that have, some of the guests know my father. So it's very good to be able to have that. And you know, again, as Meadowood is really in the heart of the Napa Valley, you have, as I mentioned, initially it was a club, and we are still a club today. We have the hotel side with, we went up to 100 rooms, and we're down to 36 rooms because we were hit by the glass fire on the 28th of September of 2020. And so now we reopen with 36 rooms, and we have a membership that's more or less 900 people. Well, it's 900 memberships, and then like it's families, it's couples, it's individuals. We have like 3,500 or 4,000 people that are really from the valley. I mean, a third of them are from, you know, between Napa and Calistoga. So there's all that connection, and it's Meadowood has been here. It's kind of the first luxury hotel in the valley. I mean, Auberge came later. Now you have all the Auberge Resorts properties. You have Four Seasons that just opened, but really the heart is Meadowood. And what's beautiful here is that Meadowood is inside of its own valley. We're a valley inside of the valley. So it makes it very unique. It's true that we do not have, we don't have a view of an Auberge du Soleil on Rutherford, but we are in the middle of the trees. We have all these beautiful birds, all the wildlife that you don't find in other places, plus the history with the valley. Meadowood was the first offices of the Vineyards Association was on property of Meadowood. Up to 2020, the wine auction would happen at Meadowood. It's something that was created between Robert Mondavi and Bill Harlan that they had discovered with the Les Hospices de Beaune, and they wanted to do something like this here, and that's where it was born, and it grew. I don't know what will be the future about it, but for almost 40 years, I think it happened here. So it's really, I mean, we're fortunate to have Mr. Harlan with Harlan Estate, Bond Promontory, and then our other partner that's the majority owner is Mr. Stan Kroenke, that on his side has Screaming Eagle and other wineries down in the southern part of California. So we're really in the middle of it, and you can, you know, come and stay here, and you're by the pool, and you see some of the Mondavi family, you see some of those top winemakers that do all the beautiful wines that you have here. So it's, you know, there's somewhere, and I think that's what was behind Mr. Harlan's head to bring me back. There's this connection on generations. He's very much, he always says that his plan is on 200 years. It's a long stretch. You know, he's not here for, he's here for forever and ever. So I think that's very important. These pieces get together.
If I look at your experience, you seem to like hotels that have history and past and character, right? We talked about Orient Express. We talked about Hôtel de Paris, you know, Domaine de Montville. All those properties really have a very strong identity. Is that something you always looked for in a property that had character, something unique with some importance behind it, like a real meaning, a real life?
Yes, I mean, I've always tried to stay at the top of the business and be in the deluxe hotels. And I think that automatically, that's what makes a deluxe hotel. I mean, I started my career at the Nassauhof in Wiesbaden, and that's the heart of the city. I mean, it's right on the other side of the courthouse and casino. It had a beautiful restaurant. It still has a beautiful restaurant that was 2 or 3 star Michelin. And so on and so on. It's really, I think, automatically when you are at that level, you're in the places that are the nicest of that area. So automatically you have that feeling. And yes, there's that history. I mean, I've always been in places, I mean, going to work in Venice and you have to take a boat to go there, you know, and I don't even tell you the boat, you know, it's a beautiful, I could even say that it's almost nicer than a Riva, to put it at that level. And, you know, that's the hard life that you have. So you know, there's never one morning that I did not want to go to work anywhere where I was, because I've always been very lucky. Yes.
So right now at Meadowood, you have history, you have legacy with your family, and then you talked briefly about community. Community is very important in the US, maybe compared to other countries. And it seemed that Meadowood, as you were saying, really plays a very big role for the community in Napa Valley. Did you see this when you came to the property? You probably knew about that, but was it obvious to you that Meadowood was more than a resort, more than a club? It was really had an importance locally for people?
Yes, absolutely. I was lucky to be here back in the 80, 86, 87, because I did my last training for hotel school at the Hotel Nico in San Francisco that was opening at that time. So definitely, I mean, there was this connection, you know, with the people that were the members, and we know, having lived already in the United States through the career of my father, what I feel is very different, and some French that are here have mentioned that to me. What is very important in the United States is that you're a member of a club. In New York, it would be more social. It's more linked to restaurants or things like that. When you're outside of the cities, it's a yacht club, it's a golf club, it's a tennis club, and people are more in the United States going to be member of a club, and that allows you to connect with that community. So definitely that's very strong. And some, you know, some people coming from France, for example, don't always get that, because it's the best way to do business also. All the clubs will tell you that that's not the purpose, and you try to get out of it. That's true, but automatically at one time or another, there's a little connection. And but it can take different shapes. I mean, what's funny with us, for example, at Meadowood, is that we have a few of the children of the members that become staff members, and you know, for summer they're serving around the pool, and that is something that if you go into other restaurants or other hotels and you talk with staff, a few of them will tell you that they started their career at the pool of Meadowood. I mean, that's, and we rehire staff that started at the pool. So it's yes, we are. But on the other side, sometimes you go into town, you talk to your bank teller, and they say, "Oh, Meadowood, but are we allowed to go into Meadowood?" You know, there's that. Sometimes people think that you cannot, because we're at the end of a, you know, you have to get into the place. It's a valley, and you have a gate and everything. So people, but we are open. You know, when we have the restaurants are open to people. The only part that is reserved is the golf or the tennis or the pools that are for the members, but you can come and enjoy the restaurants.
And that's a very good segue, because my next question to you was talking about your property. You talked about the glass fire. Could you tell us the plan for Meadowood and what are the next few steps, you know, for next year, on how things are going to reopen? You talked about your restaurant as well. Could you let us know how Meadowood is growing back?
So right now we were fortunate to have our pools that are brand new and finished building in October of 2019. We have a beautiful spa that opened in November of 2015. And then we have 36 rooms at the south side of property. Everything that is where I am right now, the reception and beyond, what we call the north part, is closed. So unfortunately, the golf and the croquet are closed at this time. So we are managing that part, and unfortunately, as you know, we lost everything that was food and beverage. So we lost the grill, we lost the restaurant, and we lost everything that was our beautiful banqueting areas, the vintner's room, the lawns where we would do the weddings. So what we are working on right now is to do a temporary restaurant that's going to be at least for maybe 3 to 5 years on 2 tennis courts that are closest to the fitness building. And then, so that is going to be like a semi-rigid structure where we're going to have, again, an enclosed restaurant, because right now we are only having the terrace cafe that was built with the pools. That is a beautiful place with its 6 palm trees and a beautiful bar with 2 screens to look at sports, but there's no roof. So right now it's a little bit tougher to have a nice structure for the whole year. So that's why we're building that structure, and we'll have also space outside to be able for people during the day to enjoy a drink, you know, before they go out to dinner or when they come back from dinner. And then we are also working on, thankfully, the county understands that we need to get all these structures back up and running. So we're getting some special authorization because, again, this is temporary. So we will be opening also very close to the hotel, the restaurant, and hopefully this will happen by June. We are right now having the kitchens built, so that takes a little bit of time. And then, so hopefully by this summer, we will have the option of 2 restaurants, and even a third one being the pool terrace that we will reopen. You know, usually it was always open from Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day weekend. And then the projects for the hotel, we're still working with the county on the entitlements. And as we have that, we will be redesigning the property. And, you know, as people say here in the United States, there's always a silver lining. And an area like the grill was a little aged and we needed to renovate it. So I think that in 3 to 5 years, we will certainly open with a beautiful property with that will be at the edge of, you know, what we do in hospitality, because we're looking at what should we build for the next 40 to 50 years, as this was done back in the 80s when Mr. Harlan and his associates at the time looked at Meadowood for the next 40 years. So we're there again, and that's also a beautiful opportunity to be able to do that and to be, you know, the leader. Hopefully by the time we reopen, we'll be the leader in the valley, because we will be at the edge of what people will be looking for the next 50 years. And that's always a big question. What will the people be looking for? You know, we before this call, we were talking about technology and all these things. What are people going to be looking for? You know, is it, I guess today it's being a sustainable property, oriented towards maybe local farming and all these things that are very important to people. And, you know, on top of that, being in the middle of this beautiful #1 wine valley in the United States, and close to being, you know, in the top of the world. Don't say it to the French, but it is unique for us also, and to work on that. And we're very fortunate to have also the Napa Valley Reserve that's right at the entrance of the property. So
perfect segue. My question was, how is Napa Valley doing? For people who haven't been to Napa Valley for a while, could you tell us the economic situation of the valley, how tourism has been doing the last year and a half?
Well, thanks to COVID and the fact that people cannot travel as much, the Napa Valley is doing very, very well. We as local complain because there's all the traffic and everything, but people are just pouring in the valley, and not only for the weekends, but also on the weekdays. You know, the way of working today has shifted a little bit, and people, even before COVID, people had a tendency also to be independent in their way of working and be able to work with their phone or with a laptop, and can work from a hotel as long as you have Wi-Fi and good connections. Then, you know, so that's also helpful. We're also in an area with the Silicon Valley, where we are fortunate to have also a younger crowd that has the means to be able to stay in properties like ours, on top of the classical boomers that, of course, come with their family and all that. So definitely, we're doing very well, and Meadowood, like a lot of other hotels in the valley, in the United States and in the world, are struggling with staff issues. And I think it's unfortunately something that was going to happen in a way or another, because I don't think all of us, starting by me, have always maybe managed it in the best way to be attractive to staff to come and work. And with COVID, people discovered other industries, because definitely the restaurants and hotels were first hit, having to be closed completely. So people had to go out and find a job. And I think they're a little bit discovering it, like a lot of French people want to do a job from Monday to Friday from 9 to 5. But I don't think that exists everywhere anymore. With the beautiful phones that we have, I think that everyone is dependent all the time. And I think we all worked 7/24 today. But we are doing very well. I mean, the wineries also, everyone is very busy, and just trying to find more staff and be attractive to them, and making sure that they're happy. And I must say that unfortunately, I had a very tough 2020, because I had to fire my staff twice. And I'm very lucky that I would say that even if I'm missing some staff, of what we have today, 80% are staff that just came back. So I know that I upset a few of my GM colleagues in the Valley, because they were happy to be able to hire some of our staff. And then as soon as they knew that we were opening, well, they came back home. So, but we're still missing a few positions. So if anyone is listening to today and would like to come and join us, please, Pierre will give you the connections on how to find me.
Yes, I will be happy to share it for sure. Well, hey, Patrick, we're getting close to the half hour. So before we part ways, I always like to let you close this meeting by just giving a few words to whoever listens to us. I don't know, whatever you have on your heart, or whatever you want to say to people before we go, as a general message. And it could be promotional or anything. It can be anything you want.
I did a little bit of promotion, and I hope that the almost 30 minutes that we have spent together will make people, if they haven't discovered Meadowood, if they're from the Bay Area and larger, I mean, to come in and visit. Being French, I'm very lucky to have grown in a country where food and wine is very important. And we're very lucky to, wherever you move in France, you have a different wine region, you have a different traditional dish, a different cheese. But I must say that here in the Napa Valley, we kind of find that too, because there's a lot of, for example, talking about cheeses, people creating new cheeses, the wines, you have different kind of wines, even if Napa Valley is concentrated mostly on the Cabernets, but you have the Zinfandels, you have the Merlot, and then we can't forget our neighbors just on the other side of the Mayacamas Mountains with the Sonoma region with the beautiful Pinots. And when you start to see French companies or French owners come to different areas of the world, like the Napa Valley or the Sonoma, and buy land, I think that means a lot. So it's a beautiful place to be. It's a beautiful place to live. I know that with everything that's going on in San Francisco, a lot of people are looking for homes here. That's not to our advantage, because it was already expensive and it's already hard to find staff. So it's not going to help us. but unfortunately, that's how it is. But it's a beautiful place. Meadowood is a beautiful place to stay, to discover the Napa Valley, to discover the wines. We can bring you to almost any winery that you're thinking about and suggest maybe wineries that you don't know about yet. And the same thing in the world of working. If what's beautiful with the hospitality is that we almost have a lot of different kind of jobs. You can be an engineer with us. You can be a grounds person. You can be a housekeeper. You can be a server. You can be a sales and marketing person. You can be a lot of different jobs like that. You can be, we're fortunate also to have some tennis pros. We have a golf pro. We're not looking for those positions anymore. So, but there's a big variety of positions. So, and people have grown also within Meadowood in different areas, you know, switching from being at the reception and then going into food and beverage or vice versa. So and on top of that, if you like the world of wine and cuisine, gastronomy, and, you know, Christopher Costa with the restaurant has also a beautiful garden. So everything is almost grown here. I can't say that everything because the volumes are pretty, but it's true that going down to 36 room, it helps on that piece too. So there will always be an excuse to come to Meadowood.
Hey, you know what? I concur. If you haven't tried, if you haven't been to Meadowood, this should be on your list to do. You know,
as we see today, on your bucket list.
Oh, voilà, on your bucket list, exactly. Put Meadowood, but just not only on the bucket list, make it to Meadowood. That's what you should do.
It should be on the top, #1 of the bucket list.
Voilà. Here you go. Patrick, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing all of this. I hope our listeners are going to enjoy what we talked about. You're very, very passionate, and I love talking to you. And I hope to see you soon, Patrick. You be well. Next check-in will be in 2 or 3 weeks from now. Patrick, à bientôt. Vive Meadowood. Au revoir.
Thank you for inviting me, Pierre.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, Patrick.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.